A divorced businessman brought his housekeeper to an exclusive business dinner, but no one could have predicted how the evening would unfold. Olivia had spent nearly 3 years working at Michael Harris's sprawling estate. Dedicated and diligent, she approached her job with pride, yet she never anticipated being summoned for such an unusual request. Michael, a wealthy and influential entrepreneur known for his cold and calculating demeanor, was facing a critical crisis in his company. With a pivotal dinner looming to secure the favor of key investors, Michael, pressed for time and lacking patience, turned to Olivia for an unexpected solution. As Olivia quietly polished the bookshelves in his office, Michael looked at her and spoke with an air of arrogance. "I need you to accompany me to an important dinner tonight," he said flatly. "This isn't a request, it's an order. Dress appropriately, remain silent, and make sure you don't attract any attention." The abruptness of the demand startled Olivia, though she hid her surprise. It wasn't an invitation, it was a directive, devoid of respect. Yet, despite the tone, Olivia sensed an opportunity, a rare chance to show she was more than just an employee. Steeling herself, she accepted, knowing this evening would be anything but ordinary. Arriving at the upscale restaurant in a sleek, elegant gown, Olivia carried herself with quiet confidence. Michael, already waiting at the entrance, barely glanced at her. "Let's go," he muttered, his tone curt and dismissive. To him, she was simply another piece in his plan for the evening. As they entered the lavish dining room, the attention of the room shifted toward them. The investors, seated at the center of the restaurant, exuded power and authority. Michael wasted no time in introducing Olivia, his words as indifferent as his demeanor. "This is Olivia. She's with me tonight," he said, his voice detached, not even bothering to mention her last name. The investors nodded politely, though their glances were laced with skepticism. Olivia, they seemed to think, didn't belong in such a space. Despite the silent judgment, she held her composure, keenly observing the dynamic around her. Dinner commenced with Michael leading the conversation, his focus entirely on numbers, projections, and ambitious strategies for expansion. Olivia remained silent, absorbing every detail with unwavering attention. But her quiet watchfulness masked a growing determination. The tone of the evening shifted when Mr. Lewis, one of the investors, a tall, imposing man with sharp features, turned his attention to Olivia. His smile, though outwardly polite, carried an air of condescension. "So, Olivia, how does it feel to be part of a dinner like this?" he asked, his voice dripping with subtle mockery. The table grew tense. Olivia could have responded with something safe, something forgettable, but she chose not to. Instead, she met his gaze and replied with poise. "It's fascinating," she said calmly. "The focus on numbers and projections is insightful, but I believe the real success of any venture lies in understanding the people behind those figures." Her words hung in the air, halting the conversation. Michael's eyes narrowed, his irritation evident. Olivia had defied his unspoken rule to remain silent, and the investors, intrigued, now saw her in a new light. Mr. Lewis chuckled softly, clearly impressed. "That's an interesting perspective," he said, leaning back in his chair. Around the table, other investors exchanged glances of curiosity. As the evening progressed, the discussion shifted to social responsibility, a topic that seemed to push Michael further from the investors' favor. Mr. Lewis seized the moment to ask, "Michael, has your company considered integrating social initiatives into its goals?" Michael hesitated, his discomfort apparent. Before he could offer a vague response, Olivia stepped in, her voice steady and confident. "I believe companies have a responsibility to give back to the communities that support them. Success isn't just about profit, it's about creating a meaningful and lasting impact." Her words brought a hush over the table. The investors, one by one, turned their attention to her, their respect palpable. Mr. Lewis smiled, nodding approvingly. "You don't often hear that kind of insight." "Refreshing," he said, his words a subtle dig at Michael. Michael's jaw tightened. He had brought Olivia here to fade into the background, yet she had become the centerpiece of the evening. Frustrated, he interjected, his voice laced with irritation. It's easy to speak when you don't carry the burden of leadership, Olivia. Do you truly understand what you're talking about? Olivia turned to him, her gaze unwavering. Maybe I don't carry the weight of leadership, she said, her tone measured but firm, but I understand the impact of decisions. And sometimes those further from power see things that those at the top cannot. Her response was sharp, confident, and entirely unexpected. Mr. Lewis let out a hearty laugh, clearly impressed. The other investors exchanged nods of approval, their interest in Olivia now undeniable. For the rest of the evening, Michael remained quiet, acutely aware of how far the night had spiraled out of his control. As the dinner concluded, he stormed out ahead, leaving Olivia to follow on her own. But she didn't need his company. She had found her voice, and it had resonated far beyond the confines of that room. For Olivia, it wasn't just a dinner. It was a defining moment, a chance to stand tall, be heard, and prove that she belonged. Little did Olivia know, Michael wouldn't let the events of that evening go unanswered. Back at the mansion, Michael's irritation boiled over. The moment Olivia stepped through the door, he summoned her to his office, dispensing with any semblance of formality. His eyes burned with frustration and disdain as he confronted her. "What were you thinking, Olivia?" he snapped, his voice sharp and accusatory. He didn't even wait for her to sit before continuing. "I asked you to accompany me to remain discreet, not to turn yourself into the center of attention." Olivia, still composed despite the intensity of the night, met his anger with an unshaken demeanor. She had anticipated this confrontation and knew it wouldn't end pleasantly, but she didn't regret her actions. "I simply answered a question, Mr. Harris," she replied evenly. "All I did was express my opinion." Michael's eyes narrowed in contempt. "Opinion," he sneered. "You're a housekeeper, Olivia. You're not paid to have opinions, especially not at a business dinner. You crossed every line imaginable tonight." Olivia held her ground, though she felt the sting of his words. His inability to see beyond her role frustrated her deeply. She had taken the chance to show what she was capable of, yet to Michael, she was nothing more than a servant who had overstepped her bounds. "If my presence was so intolerable, why bring me at all?" Olivia asked, her voice calm but resolute. Michael's tone grew colder. "Don't twist this around. You were there to do your job and get paid for it, including keeping quiet," he retorted, his words cutting like ice. "Consider this your last day. You're fired." The finality of his declaration hung heavily in the air, but Olivia refused to let it diminish her. She straightened her shoulders and nodded, her dignity intact. Without a word, she turned and left the room, casting one final look at Michael before walking away. Leaving the mansion, Olivia felt a sense of clarity. She would no longer endure his disdain. That evening had shown her who she truly was and what she was capable of achieving. The next morning, as Olivia packed the last of her belongings, her phone rang. On the other end was Mr. Lewis, the investor whose interest she had piqued at the dinner. He offered her a position on his team, something she had never dared to imagine. Filled with equal parts surprise and determination, Olivia accepted. What began as a humiliating dismissal quickly transformed into the opportunity of a lifetime. Under Mr. Lewis's guidance, Olivia thrived. She uncovered talents and strengths she had never had the chance to explore while working for Michael. Her drive and leadership earned the admiration of her colleagues, and she became a respected figure in the company. For the first time, Olivia found herself in an environment where her voice mattered. Meanwhile, Michael's world began to crumble. The crisis within his company deepened, worsened by his impulsive decisions and narrow focus on short-term gains. His arrogance had driven away key partners and cost him critical contracts. The ultimate blow came when Olivia's new company acquired a substantial stake in Michael's business. This strategic move placed Olivia in a leadership role, directly linked to the company he once controlled. Their paths crossed again at a high-level leadership meeting. When Michael entered the room and saw Olivia seated at the table among the executives, his face paled. He hesitated, his eyes fixed on her, as though struggling to reconcile the woman before him with the housekeeper he had once dismissed. Olivia met his gaze with quiet strength, her expression calm yet unwavering. There was no resentment in her demeanor, only a steadfast sense of purpose. For her, the focus was on the work ahead and the opportunity to create meaningful change. After the meeting, Michael approached her, his expression a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "Olivia," he began, his voice strained, "so now you're here, with them." Olivia stood firm, unshaken by his words. "Yes, I am," she said plainly. "And as you've noticed, our company has acquired a significant stake in yours." Michael scoffed, his insecurity barely concealed. "This is absurd. Do you really think that having a seat at this table makes you understand what real leadership is?" Olivia's tone remained steady, her composure unflinching. "Michael, when I worked for you, I learned exactly what not to do as a leader. I learned how arrogance blinds people and destroys teams. That was your lesson to me." Michael stepped closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Don't think this changes anything. You're still just a lucky housekeeper." Olivia crossed her arms and met his glare with quiet resolve. "That's where you're wrong. I don't need your respect, Michael. I earned my place, and it wasn't luck. You, on the other hand, are watching your empire fall apart because you never valued anything beyond yourself." Michael faltered, her words cutting through the walls he had built around himself. For the first time, doubt crept into his expression, and it came from someone he had once considered insignificant. "I'll prove to you that I don't need anyone," he said, his voice barely masking his desperation. "The company you're trying to take over is mine." Olivia's response was calm yet pointed. "Then prove it. Show that you can still lead and save what's left of your empire. But remember, those who think they know everything often fall the fastest." Her words lingered as she walked away, leaving Michael to grapple with the harsh truths he could no longer ignore. She left him standing in silence, each of her words cutting deeper than the last. Michael Harris, for the first time, felt the full weight of humiliation. Olivia's calm yet piercing remarks had stripped away his defenses, forcing him to confront a reality he had long avoided. She was no longer just an employee or an adversary. She had become the embodiment of every truth he feared, a mirror reflecting his flaws without mercy. Her words echoed in his mind, relentless and unforgiving. Michael could no longer ignore the arrogance that had driven him to this brink, the same pride that had cost him loyal employees, valuable partners, and even the respect of his own family. That night, instead of drowning himself in desperate strategies to salvage what remained of his company, he sat in the solitude of his office, reflecting on every reckless decision he had made. The emptiness he felt was overwhelming. A few days later, Michael and Olivia were summoned to a critical meeting with the investors. The room was heavy with tension, the stakes impossibly high. Michael entered with a rigid posture, his nerves barely concealed. Olivia was already there, composed and prepared, her calm demeanor an unsettling contrast to his unease. The leader of the investors, Mr. Diaz, wasted no time. His voice was direct, his words sharp. "Michael, the state of this company is alarming. We need immediate and substantial change. This is your final opportunity to demonstrate that you can lead and turn things around." Michael swallowed hard, forcing himself to project confidence. He outlined his plans with fervor, attempting to reclaim control of the narrative. But as he spoke, it became painfully clear that his ideas lacked depth, still focused on superficial gains rather than meaningful, sustainable solutions. The investors exchanged skeptical glances, their doubt palpable. Then Olivia spoke. Her voice was steady, her words thoughtful. "This company needs more than quick fixes. It's no longer enough to chase profit at all costs. We must reconnect with the people who drive this business, our employees and our community. That requires a real commitment to social responsibility." Her words shifted the room's energy. The investors leaned in, intrigued by her perspective. Encouraged by their interest, Olivia continued, laying out a vision that emphasized sustainability and the long-term benefits of integrating community-focused initiatives. Michael sat frozen, As Olivia spoke, he could feel the admiration in the room shifting toward her. Every word she uttered seemed to underline his failures, her confidence a stark contrast to the uncertainty he now felt. It became undeniably clear she was the one saving the company, not him. When the meeting concluded, the investors left with a renewed sense of optimism, thanks to Olivia's plan. As they exited the room, Michael stopped her in the hallway. His voice betrayed disbelief as he asked, "Why are you doing this? Why would you help save this company?" Olivia took a deep breath, her eyes unwavering. "Because I believe in the value of people, Michael, and I believe this company has potential with or without you." Her words hit him like a blow, leaving him speechless. For the first time, he felt something more profound than shame or frustration. A flicker of genuine regret and a desire to change stirred within him, though faint and uncertain. Olivia didn't wait for a response. She turned and walked away, leaving Michael to grapple with the harsh truths she had laid bare. In the days that followed, Michael found himself haunted by her words. They were a constant reminder of how far he had fallen and how much he needed to prove, not just to Olivia, but to himself. Beneath his irritation at her judgments was a growing determination to show that he could still rise, that he could still matter. As the week progressed, the tension between them grew almost unbearable. Olivia, with her poised demeanor and sharp insights, seemed to see through every one of Michael's intentions before he could act. This both unsettled and motivated him, pushing him to prepare tirelessly for the next investor meeting. The day of the meeting arrived, and Olivia was already in the boardroom, reviewing her meticulously crafted presentation. Michael entered with a different plan, a bold proposal he believed would impress the board and reclaim their confidence. He was determined to prove his worth. As the meeting began, Olivia presented her strategy with clarity and precision. She emphasized stability, resource conservation, and a renewed focus on the company's mission. The investors listened intently, their approval evident. Michael, however, couldn't stay silent. Interrupting at a pivotal moment, he said, "I see the merit in Olivia's plan, but I believe we need to act with more boldness. The market needs to see us making strong moves, showing that we're entering a new phase." Olivia turned to him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and measured disapproval. "Michael, we've already seen what happens when we prioritize risky growth over stability. This company needs consistency, not reckless ambition. Our mission must come first." The room grew tense as the investors weighed their words. Some leaned toward Olivia's steady approach, while others seemed drawn to Michael's audacity. The board president, Mr. Diaz, finally intervened. "Both of you make valid points," he said firmly. "But what we need now is a unified vision. I'm asking you to collaborate on a joint proposal for our next meeting." Olivia nodded, her composure unshaken. Michael, on the other hand, felt the sting of defeat. He realized, perhaps more clearly than ever, that he was no longer in control of the company he had built. The helplessness was staggering, but deep down he knew it was a reckoning he could no longer avoid. That evening, Michael Harris sat alone in his office, drowning in the weight of his own decisions. Financial reports lay scattered across his desk, their numbers blurring together as he struggled to devise a plan to salvage the company. His mind raced with ideas, yet none seemed feasible without jeopardizing the project's core values. Then, as if by fate, a message from an old business acquaintance appeared on his phone. The man offered a substantial investment in exchange for a small voice in the company's social initiatives. To Michael, this seemed like the lifeline he desperately needed. The deal would secure the funds to expand the company while proving to Olivia and himself that he was still capable of decisive leadership. Without consulting Olivia or the board, he scheduled a meeting with the investor. The following day, he confidently presented his vision for rapid growth, and within hours, the contract was signed. Michael felt triumphant for the first time in weeks. He finally had something tangible to showcase his leadership. However, Olivia's reaction was far from what he had anticipated. The moment she learned about the deal, she stormed into his office. He was mid-video call with the investor, enthusiastically discussing future expansion plans, when he noticed her standing in the doorway. Her glare was sharp enough to send a chill down his spine. Michael quickly ended the call, bracing himself for the confrontation. "You made a deal without the board's approval," Olivia said, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "How could you do that?" Michael took a deep breath, attempting to justify his actions. "Olivia, this was an opportunity we couldn't afford to miss. We need this money to expand. I'm trying to save the company, just like you are." She shook her head, her disbelief evident. "Save the company? Do you even realize the risks you've taken? This investor now has influence over our social projects. What happens when his interests begin to reshape everything we've worked for?" Michael's tone grew defensive. "It's a calculated risk. He doesn't have control, just a small say in the matter. That's all." Olivia's expression hardened. "And what about our promise to value people, to act transparently? This isn't the kind of leadership we pledged to build." Her words struck Michael like a blow. He felt exposed, vulnerable, and increasingly resentful of her unyielding judgment. "Why do you always assume I'll fail, Olivia? I'm trying to do what's right." Olivia's gaze softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. "It's not about wanting you to fail. It's about understanding the consequences of your actions. Leadership isn't about grand gestures, it's about responsibility. Acting in secret only proves that you still don't understand that." 2 weeks later, the board convened to address the unauthorized deal. The atmosphere in the room was tense, the stakes high. Olivia began by voicing her concerns. "This contract represents a deviation from our principles. By bringing in an external investor, we've allowed someone outside our values to influence our mission. I think we all understand the risks involved." Mr. Diaz, the board president, turned his attention to Michael. "Michael, explain your reasoning." Michael hesitated, then said, "I believe the investment would provide the financial stability we need to grow and sustain our projects long term." Mr. Diaz's stern gaze didn't waver. "This isn't just about finances. You've compromised the integrity of our mission, and you acted without approval." The tension in the room thickened as Michael glanced at Olivia. Her expression was one of quiet disappointment. He realized, in that moment, that he had lost more than the board's trust. He had squandered an opportunity to show that he had changed. By the end of the meeting, the board decided to reassess Michael's role in future decisions, significantly limiting his authority. As he left the room, the weight of defeat pressed heavily on him. For the first time, Michael understood that change required more than empty promises, it demanded humility. Back at home, Michael faced the emptiness of a house that once symbolized his success, but now felt devoid of warmth. He replayed the meeting in his mind, haunted by Olivia's words. "You're still treating this company like a profit machine," she had said. Those words cut deeper than he wanted to admit. The following morning, he arrived at the office early, determined to confront his own shortcomings. Sitting amidst stacks of reports, he reflected deeply on his choices, analyzing not just the financial consequences but the ethical failings that had led him here. That afternoon, Olivia appeared at his door. Her expression was serious but lacked the cold detachment he had grown used to. Michael decided to be honest. "Olivia," he began, his voice unsteady, "I've made so many mistakes. I know my decisions have hurt people more than I can fix. If you've given up on me, I understand." Olivia crossed her arms, studying him carefully. Finally, she said, "Acknowledging your mistakes is a start, Michael, but it's not enough. What are you going to do about it?" Michael sighed heavily. "I don't know. All I know is I can't keep doing things the way I have." She nodded slowly. "Real change takes practice, every single day. Leadership isn't about control, it's about service. Are you ready to let go of your ego and lead differently?" "I want to," he said quietly, "but I don't think I can do it alone." A faint smile tugged at Olivia's lips. "No one can, Michael. True leadership requires trust and collaboration. You need to start trusting people. You can't do it all by yourself." Her words lingered long after she left, planting a seed of hope. For the first time, Michael felt he might find a way forward not alone, but with the guidance of someone who believed he could change. Her words lingered in Michael Harris's mind, unraveling the rigid structures of his long-held beliefs. He had always operated under the assumption that control was strength, that trust was a liability. But now, confronted with his own inadequacies, he began to question if trust wasn't the missing element all along a foundation he had overlooked in his pursuit of leadership. After a heavy pause, Olivia finally spoke, her voice steady and uncompromising. "If you're serious about changing, there's a way, but it won't be easy. You'll need to abandon everything you think you know about leadership and start fresh." Michael looked up, a flicker of hope breaking through his despair. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said earnestly. "Show me how I can make a difference." Later that week, Olivia brought Michael to his first community outreach project, a cornerstone of the company's renewed commitment to social responsibility. The initiative focused on empowering women in vulnerable circumstances, providing them with the tools and training to join the workforce. For a man who had spent his career in pristine boardrooms and high-rise offices, the rawness of the community environment was startling. In one of the project's meetings, Michael sat among women whose lives were worlds apart from his own. They were single mothers, survivors of domestic abuse, and individuals battling financial hardships. As they shared their stories, Michael felt the weight of their struggles. These were not abstract numbers or impersonal metrics. These were lives, each one teetering on the edge, relying on opportunities as fragile as they were essential. At the close of the meeting, an elderly woman with silver hair and piercing eyes approached him. Her gaze was steady, her tone firm. "You're Mr. Michael Harris, aren't you? The owner of the company supporting this project?" Michael nodded, suddenly self-conscious. "Yes, that's me." The woman studied him for a moment before speaking. "My son worked for your company years ago. He gave his best years of dedication and was let go without any explanation. It broke him. He lost his purpose." Her words struck Michael like a blow. I didn't know," he stammered, the shame rising in his chest. She shook her head slowly. "Maybe you didn't care enough to know. But seeing you here today, I wonder if things are changing. I just hope that change is real." Her words stayed with him long after she walked away, leaving him feeling exposed and raw. For years, he had moved through his professional life blind to the ripples of his actions. Now, faced with the undeniable truth of her story, he could no longer ignore the damage his choices had caused. Back at the office, still reeling from the experience, Michael sought out Olivia. "Today I finally understood what you meant," he said, his voice tinged with both gratitude and regret. Olivia regarded him with a softness he hadn't seen before. "This is just the beginning, Michael. Real change takes more than understanding, it takes action. Over time, you might realize that true leadership is about serving, not controlling." Determined to put her words into practice, Michael joined a meeting with the project's staff later that week. It was an unfamiliar experience listening to the people on the ground, those directly involved in the work. As he entered the room, he felt the weight of their stares. Distrust mingled with curiosity in their expressions, and Michael knew he had much to prove. The meeting began with team members sharing their concerns. Brian, a young and passionate advocate for the project, spoke with conviction. "We need consistency," he said firmly. "This can't be treated like a quick-fix initiative. The people we serve depend on us, and that means committing for the long haul." Michael listened intently, absorbing every word. For the first time, he wasn't focused on defending his decisions, but on understanding the perspectives of those who had been impacted by them. After the meeting, Michael decided to immerse himself in the project, not as a leader, but as a learner. He accompanied Olivia on visits to the communities the program served, eager to see firsthand the lives they were touching. On one such visit, he met Judy, a young mother whose life had been transformed by the training program. With tears in her eyes, she spoke about how the initiative had given her the skills and confidence to secure a job. For the first time in years, she could support her daughter and dream of a better future. Michael felt his throat tighten as he listened to her story. It was a stark reminder that behind every spreadsheet and report lay real people, each with a unique struggle and a profound hope. He saw, at last, the depth of the work Olivia had championed. The most important outcomes weren't found in quarterly earnings but in the lives forever changed by their efforts. Back at the office, Michael Harris approached Olivia with a newfound seriousness in his voice. "You were right, Olivia," he began, his tone steady yet laced with regret. "I've always seen this as a tool, a way to climb back to the top and fix my image. But now I understand how deeply wrong I've been." Olivia studied him intently, her expression unreadable. "So what are you going to do about it?" Michael inhaled deeply, searching for the right words. "I want to change, Olivia. I want to truly understand what we're building here. I'm ready to serve, not just lead, and to ensure that everyone involved finds something I've never had before: real leadership." For the first time, Olivia saw a glimmer of sincerity in his eyes. She nodded slowly. "Then prove it. Show us in every action, every choice you make. Words mean nothing without follow-through." Over the next several weeks, Michael threw himself into the projects with an energy that surprised even his harshest critics. He shifted from the role of a commanding boss to that of a humble participant, eager to learn from those around him. Instead of dictating decisions, he began listening, truly listening to the voices of his team and the people the projects served. The transformation didn't go unnoticed. While the board initially remained skeptical, they couldn't ignore the subtle but significant changes in Michael's behavior. He was more open to feedback, less reactive, and far more thoughtful in his decisions. Olivia, though cautiously optimistic, kept a close eye on his progress. She knew that meaningful change wasn't quick or easy, and she hoped Michael understood that too. By the end of the month, Michael felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. For the first time, the projects weren't about boosting his own success. They were about creating something meaningful for others. One afternoon, as Olivia passed by his office, Michael stood and called out to her. "Olivia," he said, his voice warm with gratitude, "thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." A faint smile crossed her lips. "Leadership is a journey, Michael," she replied. "If you're committed to it, I think you'll find it's worth every step." With this renewed perspective, Michael embraced the path ahead with determination. He approached his work with an intensity that surprised those around him. Each week, he immersed himself in the details, visiting communities, attending team meetings, and meticulously reviewing financial reports. The projects were no longer just line items on a ledger, they were a mission, one he felt deeply connected to. This was his chance to rebuild not just his reputation, but the trust of the board, his colleagues, and most importantly, himself. The board began to take notice. Michael's consistent presence at project sites, his thoughtful questions, and his growing understanding of the work signaled a genuine transformation. Olivia observed from a distance, cautiously optimistic. The man who once dismissed these initiatives as secondary to profit was now their staunchest advocate. What began as formal visits to the project sites soon became the highlight of Michael's routine. He learned the names of participants, listened to their stories, and tracked their progress with genuine interest. These interactions pulled him far from the polished boardrooms and corporate dealings he had known for so long. On one visit, Michael spent hours speaking with Sarah, a middle-aged woman whose life had been upended by the loss of her job. The project had given her a chance to start over, and she shared her story with a heartfelt candor that left him deeply moved. "It's not just a job for me, Mr. Harris," Sarah said, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's a second chance at life. For the first time in years, I feel like someone sees my worth." Michael felt a lump rise in his throat. Her words struck a chord, reminding him that his work now carried a weight far beyond profits or growth charts. He wasn't just helping individuals, he was helping to rebuild lives. Every story he heard deepened his commitment. Each conversation revealed how these projects were transforming more than numbers, they were reshaping futures, instilling hope where it had long been lost. Michael's resolve grew stronger with each passing day. For the first time, he wasn't chasing accolades, he was pursuing something far more meaningful, a legacy built on service, not ego. The project had grown beyond a mere concept. It had come alive, touching lives and inspiring transformation. As tangible results began to emerge, so did the company's reputation, regaining the trust it had once lost. The board members, initially skeptical of Michael Harris's ability to lead with integrity, started to show signs of approval. In meetings with the board, Michael carried himself with calm and humility, a stark contrast to the grandiose persona he had once worn like armor. He presented the project's progress, consistently emphasizing the contributions of his team and acknowledging Olivia's pivotal role. Each statistic, each success story, was a testament to the impact of their collective efforts. During one such meeting, Mr. Diaz, the chairman of the board, leaned back thoughtfully. "Michael," he said, his tone uncharacteristically warm, "I have to admit, your approach to this project has impressed us. The pilot is a success, and I'm confident we can scale it sustainably." Michael offered a quiet smile, feeling the weight of those words. For him, it wasn't just about the board's approval. He knew Olivia's mentorship had been instrumental in his growth, and he made it a point to recognize her influence. Yet something beyond professional admiration was beginning to stir in his heart. As they worked together, Michael found himself seeing Olivia in a new light. She wasn't just a brilliant strategist or an exceptional leader, she was compassionate, principled, and deeply committed to her work. He noticed how she spoke to each project participant with genuine kindness, how her attention to detail never wavered, and how her presence seemed to bring calm and confidence to those around her. During one of their visits to a community center, Michael and Olivia attended a small celebration organized by the project's beneficiaries. The event was humble but heartfelt, a gesture of gratitude for the support they had received. Michael watched as Olivia moved effortlessly through the crowd, engaging with each person with a warmth that was both genuine and rare. She belonged in this space, and it was clear that the people felt it too. She doesn't just lead this project, Michael thought, a sense of admiration swelling in his chest. She's part of it. After the celebration ended, Michael offered to walk Olivia back to the office. The quiet streets of the community stretched before them, illuminated by soft, flickering lights. Feeling a rare vulnerability, Michael decided to break the silence. "Olivia," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I've always admired your dedication to this project. What made you invest so much of yourself into it?" She turned to him with a smile that was both tender and resolute. "Michael, I think I've always been drawn to the idea of creating something bigger than myself. When I was younger, I saw people close to me struggle in ways that left a deep impression. Being part of something that helps others rebuild their lives, it gives my own life meaning." Her words resonated deeply. For Michael, the project had been about regaining his reputation and building a legacy. But for Olivia, it was personal, driven by a mission to make a real difference. In that moment, Michael began to understand the depth of her convictions and the extraordinary woman standing beside him. In the weeks that followed, their partnership evolved. What had once been a formal, cautious dynamic now became a collaboration marked by mutual trust and admiration. They strategized together, shared ideas, and leaned on each other for support in decisions both big and small. Yet something deeper began to shift within Michael. His feelings for Olivia grew stronger with each passing day. It wasn't just her intelligence or her passion for the work, it was the way she made him feel grounded, inspired, and whole. For someone who had always been wary of personal relationships in the workplace, this realization caught him off guard. One evening, after an especially long meeting, the two lingered in the office, discussing the project's future. Their conversation, which started with spreadsheets and deadlines, gradually shifted to more personal reflections. Michael seized the opportunity to express what had been on his mind. "Olivia, I owe so much of this transformation to you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I used to think success was about power and control, but you've shown me that true success comes from building something meaningful." She looked at him, surprised but clearly moved by his honesty. "Michael," she said gently, Seeing the changes in you has been one of the most fulfilling parts of this journey. You've come so far." For a moment, their eyes met, and an unspoken connection filled the space between them. Michael felt an overwhelming urge to close the gap, but he held back, unwilling to jeopardize the professional bond they had built. As the days passed, however, Michael found it increasingly difficult to suppress his growing affection for Olivia. He noticed the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about something she cared about, the way she inspired the team with her conviction, and the quiet strength that made her so unique. One evening, as they worked late in the office reviewing reports, Michael spoke without thinking. "You know," he said, his tone unusually tender, "you're one of the most remarkable people I've ever met." Olivia laughed softly, a touch of surprise in her expression. "Thank you, Michael, but I think you've changed just as much and you've become someone truly admirable." Her words settled in his heart, affirming what he already knew. He wasn't just drawn to Olivia, he was falling in love with her. This wasn't a fleeting infatuation or a momentary impulse. It was a deep respect and a desire to share something meaningful with her, a mission, a purpose, and perhaps a future. That night, as Michael Harris walked home, he realized the transformation Olivia had sparked in him was far more profound than just professional growth. She had awakened something in his heart, something he had never thought possible. Regardless of what lay ahead, Michael knew his life had been irrevocably changed. As the days passed, Michael and Olivia grew closer. Their professional relationship began to evolve into something more personal, a connection that deepened with every shared moment. The man who had once been consumed by ego and power now found himself engaging in candid conversations with Olivia, revealing vulnerabilities he had long kept hidden. He felt lighter, more alive, and for the first time in years, truly whole. Olivia noticed the change as well. Spending more time with Michael, she saw a man emerging from his past mistakes, becoming someone she could genuinely admire. His transformation wasn't superficial, it was heartfelt and sincere. She found herself drawn to his determination to rebuild himself and to create something that mattered deeply. Slowly, her guarded heart began to open to him. In the weeks that followed, Michael sought ways to spend more time with Olivia. He invited her to lunch after meetings, suggested leisurely walks at the end of long days, and often steered conversations toward topics beyond their work. They shared stories of their pasts, fears they rarely voiced, and dreams they dared to imagine. The line between professional and personal blurred, leaving them in a space where their feelings were undeniable but unspoken. One evening, after a particularly grueling day working on the project, they stayed late at the office to finalize a report. The dim lighting and quiet ambience created an intimate atmosphere, and as they sat side by side, Michael found himself overwhelmed by a wave of emotion. "I need to say something," he began, breaking the silence. "Thank you for everything. For believing in me even when I didn't deserve it." Olivia turned to him, surprised by the depth of his words. "You don't need to thank me, Michael. The changes you've made, they came from you. I just showed you the path." Michael offered a small smile, but the weight of what he truly wanted to say pressed on his chest. His heart raced as he gathered the courage to speak. "Olivia," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I can't keep this to myself anymore. I'm in love with you." For a moment, silence filled the room. Olivia's eyes met his, her expression unreadable, and Michael felt a pang of fear that he had overstepped. But then, her face softened, and she smiled a smile that lit up the space around them. "I'm in love with you too, Michael," she admitted, her voice steady and sincere. "I felt this way for a while, but I was afraid of what it might mean for everything we've worked so hard to build." Michael let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, laughing softly with relief. "I felt the same fear," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "But I can't ignore what I feel anymore. I want us to be more, not just partners at work, but in every sense of the word." Olivia nodded, her smile growing. "I want that too, Michael. I think we're finally ready for this, ready for something more." As they sat together, the world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the connection they shared. Leaning closer, Michael felt his heart skip a beat as their lips met in a tender, passionate kiss. In that moment, all barriers fell, and what remained was a bond that felt unshakable. After that evening, their relationship blossomed naturally. Michael and Olivia began spending more time together outside of work, sharing meals, exploring the city, and creating memories that deepened their connection. Each moment revealed new layers of understanding and affection between them, reinforcing how well they complemented each other. At work, they maintained their professionalism, ensuring the project's success remained their top priority. Yet, the team couldn't help but notice the warmth in their interactions and the unspoken connection that seemed to grow with time. As the months went on, the project flourished under their leadership. The local community thrived, participants achieved goals they once thought impossible, and the initiative's success inspired expansions into other regions. The company earned widespread recognition for its commitment to sustainable, impactful growth, a feat that even the board couldn't ignore. During a board meeting, Mr. Diaz, the often critical chairman, acknowledged Michael's efforts. "Michael, you've shown us that transformation is possible," he said with a rare smile. "The success of this project speaks volumes about your leadership and dedication. I'm proud to say you've earned our full trust as a true leader." Michael accepted the praise with humility, knowing how hard the journey had been. Glancing at Olivia, who sat beside him, he felt a wave of gratitude. Without her belief in him, her guidance, and her unwavering resolve, he wouldn't have made it this far. For Michael, this wasn't just a story of professional redemption. It was a testament to the power of change, partnership, and love. Together, he and Olivia had built something far greater than either of them could have imagined, something that would endure, both in the lives they touched and in the bond they now shared. Outside of work, Michael Harris and Olivia's relationship blossomed into something profound and deeply fulfilling. They found happiness in each other, sharing a love that was both genuine and transformative. For Michael, the thought of building a future with Olivia felt not only right but essential, and he sensed that she shared the same vision. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through a serene park, Michael gently took Olivia's hand and paused, turning to face her. His eyes held a sincerity that made her heart swell. "I never imagined meeting someone like you," he said, his voice tinged with emotion. "You've completely changed my life, Olivia, and I want to spend every moment I have left making you happy." Tears of joy welled in Olivia's eyes as she smiled warmly. "I want that too, Michael. You're not the man I first met. You've grown into someone so much better. I love you for who you've become." In that moment, surrounded by the gentle rustle of leaves and the laughter of children nearby, Michael leaned in, and they shared a tender kiss. It was a moment of pure connection, marking the beginning of a new journey. It wouldn't be without its challenges, but they were ready to face it together, hand in hand, with unwavering commitment. The project they had poured their hearts into continued to thrive, becoming a shining example of social responsibility and ethical leadership. Together, Michael and Olivia stepped into co-leadership roles, ensuring the initiative's positive impact reached even more communities. Their partnership became more than a professional success. It was a beacon of inspiration. They were admired as much for their unwavering love and mutual respect as for their ability to lead with compassion and integrity. The company earned numerous accolades, with awards and media recognition for its groundbreaking social programs. Yet for Michael and Olivia, the true reward lay in the lives they had touched. Financial achievements were secondary to the stories they witnessed: families finding stability, individuals rediscovering purpose, and dreams being rekindled. These were the moments that defined their legacy, the tangible proof of the mission they had set out to accomplish together. Months later, in an intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends, colleagues, and members of the communities they had uplifted, Michael and Olivia exchanged vows. The setting was simple yet elegant, a reflection of the authenticity that had always defined their journey together. Their promises weren't just about their love for one another, they were a shared pledge to continue their work for a greater purpose. to lead with compassion, to build a future rooted in hope and dedication, and to leave behind a legacy that would ripple far beyond their time. That night, as they danced beneath a canopy of stars, Michael felt a profound sense of gratitude. The man who had once sought power and prestige at any cost now understood the true meaning of fulfillment. It was in building something meaningful, something that mattered, alongside the woman who had changed his life. Together, Michael and Olivia embarked on a new chapter, not just for themselves, but for the countless lives they would continue to impact. Their journey wasn't just about love or leadership, it was about the enduring power of transformation and the promise of a legacy that would inspire for generations to come. The company's growth exceeded everyone's expectations, transforming from a fledgling initiative into a model of sustainable success. Under Michael Harris and Olivia's leadership, it became a beacon of hope for communities and a testament to what compassionate leadership could achieve. Each day brought new milestones, a new project launched, a struggling family given a second chance, a community revitalized. Yet, amidst their professional triumphs, Michael and Olivia's personal journey reached a turning point they never anticipated. One brisk autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted lazily to the ground outside their office windows, Olivia sat across from Michael, reviewing proposals for a new community center. Her focus wavered, a wave of dizziness forcing her to pause. Michael, ever attuned to her, noticed immediately. "Olivia," he said, concern lacing his voice, "you've been looking pale all week. Are you feeling all right?" She brushed his concern aside with a small smile. "I'm fine, Michael. It's just been a busy few days. Let's finish these plans." But Michael wasn't convinced. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. Let's take a break. I can handle this." His tenderness caught her off guard. Michael, once driven solely by ambition, had become a partner who cared deeply, not just for her but for everyone around him. Reluctantly, she nodded, setting down the documents. Later that evening, as they walked home beneath the glowing city lights, Olivia confided in him. "Michael, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. I think I need to see a doctor." Michael stopped in his tracks, turning to her with worry etched on his face. "What's wrong, Olivia? Is it serious?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice soft, "but I've been feeling different." The next morning they sat side by side in a small, warmly lit clinic. Olivia squeezed Michael's hand as the doctor entered with a kind smile. "Well," the doctor began, "I have some news that might explain how you've been feeling, Olivia. You're pregnant." The room seemed to tilt for a moment as the words sank in. Olivia's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with surprise. "Pregnant," she whispered, her voice trembling. Michael sat frozen, the gravity of the moment stealing his words. Then, as if a dam had burst, a wave of emotion overtook him. "We're going to have a baby?" he asked, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. The doctor nodded warmly, offering her congratulations before leaving them alone to process the news. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as she turned to Michael. "I can't believe it," she murmured, her voice breaking. "Michael, we're going to be parents." Michael gathered her into his arms, his heart racing with joy and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. "Olivia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "you've given me so much already, your love, your strength. Now, you're giving me a family. I don't even have the words to thank you." They sat together in that small room, the world outside forgotten, as they imagined the life they were about to build, not just for themselves, but for the tiny life growing inside Olivia. In the weeks that followed, the news of Olivia's pregnancy brought a new energy to their lives. Michael became fiercely protective, ensuring she rested when needed and insisting on accompanying her to every appointment. At work, they shared their joy with the team, who celebrated the couple's happiness with an outpouring of love and support. One afternoon, as they toured a newly completed vocational center, Olivia paused to rest on a bench overlooking the bustling community. Michael joined her, their fingers intertwining as they watched children play and families gather. Michael, Olivia began, her tone contemplative. I've been thinking a lot about what this means for us, for the company. I want our child to grow up understanding the importance of giving back, of building something meaningful. Michael nodded, his gaze fixed on the scene before them. They will, Olivia, because they'll have you as a mother. And I promise, I'll do everything in my power to make this a world they can be proud of. The months passed in a blur of preparations. Together, they transformed their home into a haven for their growing family, choosing soft pastels for the nursery and debating over names late into the night. At work, they balanced the demands of their expanding enterprise with the anticipation of parenthood, finding strength in their shared vision for the future. One evening, as a gentle snowfall blanketed the city, Michael surprised Olivia with a quiet dinner at home. The table was set with candles, and soft music played in the background. As they ate, Michael reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Olivia, he began, his voice steady, you've shown me what it means to love, to lead, and to hope. You've made me a better man. And now, as we prepare for this next chapter, I want you to know that I'll always be by your side through every joy, every challenge. Tears shimmered in Olivia's eyes as she smiled. I couldn't do this without you, Michael. You've given me so much strength, so much love. I'm not afraid of what's ahead, because I know we'll face it together. In that moment, they felt an unshakable bond, their love deepened by the promise of the life they were creating. As the snow fell outside, Michael and Olivia held each other close, ready to embrace whatever the future might bring. When their child finally arrived, a beautiful baby girl with Michael's eyes and Olivia's smile, their hearts overflowed. Naming her Grace, they knew she embodied everything they had worked for and dreamed of, a new beginning, a testament to love and a legacy of hope. As they cradled Grace in their arms, Michael whispered, "Welcome to the world, little one. You're the best thing we've ever done." Years passed, and Grace Harris grew up in a home filled with love, wisdom, and the unwavering guidance of her parents, Michael and Olivia. From an early age, it was clear that Grace was no ordinary child. She inherited Michael's sharp intellect and Olivia's compassionate heart, creating a unique blend of brilliance and empathy that would set her apart. At the age of 10, she often sat at the dinner table, listening intently as her parents discussed their latest community projects. Her father, once driven by corporate success, now spoke with passion about the lives they were transforming. Her mother, ever the visionary, emphasized the importance of creating lasting change. Grace absorbed every word, her young mind shaping an unshakable belief she wanted to make a difference, just like them. One evening, as the family gathered in their cozy living room, Grace turned to her parents with a question that would change everything. "Mom, Dad," she began, her voice steady but curious, "how do we help people who don't have much money? How can they invest in themselves when they have so little?" Michael exchanged a glance with Olivia, pride and surprise mingling in his expression. "That's a thoughtful question," Gracie said. "Helping people build something from almost nothing is one of the hardest but most rewarding things we can do." Olivia nodded, adding, "It's not just about giving money, Grace. It's about teaching people to use what they have wisely. Even the smallest resources can grow when handled with care." Grace's eyes lit up with determination. "Then I want to learn how to do that. I want to help people make the most of what they have." From that moment, Grace's path became clear. Under the patient mentorship of her parents, she began to learn about finance, community development, and the delicate balance between compassion and strategy. Michael, who had once dominated the corporate world, now became her teacher, guiding her through the complexities of investment and economics. As she grew, Grace's passion for financial empowerment deepened. By the time she entered college, she was already developing innovative ideas to help underprivileged communities access financial tools. She excelled in her studies, earning a degree in economics with honors, followed by an MBA that solidified her expertise. Her parents couldn't have been prouder. On the night of her graduation, Michael raised a toast, his voice thick with emotion. To Grace, the heart of our family. You've become everything we dreamed of and more. And I know this is only the beginning. By her mid-20s, Grace had become a rising star in the financial world. Unlike many in her field, she wasn't driven by personal gain, but by a deep desire to empower others. She founded her own organization, Hope Investments, dedicated to teaching low-income families how to invest even the smallest savings to create sustainable futures. Her vision was simple yet groundbreaking: to provide accessible financial education and tools to people who had never been given the opportunity to think beyond daily survival. Grace believed that even a single dollar could be the seed of transformation if invested wisely. One of her first programs was launched in a struggling urban neighborhood where unemployment and poverty were rampant. Grace arrived at the community center with a warm smile and a box of materials. The room was filled with skeptical faces, men and women who had spent their lives scraping by and couldn't imagine how financial concepts could change their reality. "Thank you all for being here today," Grace began, her voice steady and reassuring. "I know many of you feel like the world hasn't given you much to work with, but I'm here to show you that even the smallest steps can lead to big changes." A hand shot up in the crowd. It belonged to an elderly man named Mr. Carter, his face lined with years of struggle. "Miss Harris," he said, his tone cautious, "I've got nothing but a few dollars after paying my bills. How can someone like me invest?" Grace smiled gently. "Mr. Carter, that's exactly why I'm here. Let's start small. Those few dollars can be the foundation of something meaningful. I'll teach you how to grow it step by step." Over the following months, Grace worked tirelessly with the community. She held workshops on budgeting, saving, and investing in small-scale projects like microloans and community businesses. Her approach was hands-on, ensuring that every participant felt supported and understood. One day, after a session on compound interest, a young single mother named Maria approached Grace with tears in her eyes. "Miss Harris," she said, her voice trembling, "for the first time, I feel like I can give my kids a better life. Thank you for believing in us." Grace placed a comforting hand on Maria's shoulder. "Maria, you're the one doing the hard work. I'm just here to guide you. You have the strength to change your family's future." Word of Grace's work spread like wildfire. Hope Investments expanded to multiple communities, reaching thousands of people who had once thought financial stability was out of their reach. Each success story fueled Grace's determination. One evening, as Grace prepared for a keynote speech at a national conference, she found herself reflecting on how far she had come. Her parents, now retired, sat proudly in the front row of the auditorium. Michael leaned over to Olivia, whispering, "She's surpassed anything we could have imagined, hasn't she?" Olivia nodded, her eyes glistening. "She's taken everything we've taught her and turned it into something extraordinary. She's changed lives, Michael, just like we always hoped." When Grace took the stage, her presence commanded the room. She spoke passionately about the power of financial literacy and the importance of giving underserved communities a chance to thrive. "My parents taught me that leadership isn't about control, it's about service," she said, her voice resonating with conviction. "And I believe that financial empowerment is one of the greatest acts of service we can offer. It's not just about numbers, it's about people, about dignity, about hope." The audience erupted in applause, moved by her words and the authenticity she exuded. Afterward, as Grace embraced her parents, Michael whispered, "You've built a legacy, Grace. A legacy of hope." In the years that followed, Grace's influence only grew. Her programs became a model for social and financial reform, inspiring policymakers and businesses alike to adopt more inclusive practices. Yet, despite her success, she remained grounded, always returning to the communities that had shaped her mission. One day, as she walked through a bustling market funded by her initiatives, Grace paused to watch a group of children playing nearby. A woman approached her, holding a small child by the hand. "Miss Harris," the woman said, her voice filled with gratitude, "because of you, I was able to start my own business. I can send my kids to school now. You've given us a future." Grace knelt to greet the child, her heart swelling with emotion. You've given yourself that future, she said gently. I just helped you see what was possible. As the sun set over the vibrant market, Grace felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She thought of her parents, whose guidance had shaped her journey, and of the countless lives that had been transformed. In that moment, she knew her work was far from over, but she also knew that together, they had created something truly remarkable. And so, the legacy of Michael and Olivia Harris continued, carried forward by the daughter who had turned their dreams into reality. Thank you for watching this touching story of transformation, hope, and the enduring power of love. Today we've journeyed through the life of Michael Harris, a man who once measured success by profit but discovered true fulfillment in serving others, thanks to the unwavering support and wisdom of Olivia. Together, they built a legacy not just of corporate success, but of compassion, creating opportunities for countless lives to thrive. The heart of the story lies in their daughter, Grace, whose upbringing in a home filled with love and purpose led her to become a beacon of hope for others. From empowering communities to teaching the value of even the smallest financial steps, Grace exemplified the power of combining knowledge with empathy. Her story reminds us that true success is measured not by what we gain, but by the lives we uplift. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can be part of many more inspiring stories that celebrate resilience, love, and the human spirit. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this journey resonated with you the most? Was it Michael's transformation, Olivia's unwavering belief in him, or Grace's inspiring mission? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, leave a 1 to show your support. And if you want to see more stories like this, comment with a 0 to let us know. Together, let's continue spreading hope and inspiration one story at a time. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.